TVA spokesman should simply have said, look at Title 38. Look at Title 38. But no, he was going to say, no, we're federal people. We can do what we want. We, TVA, can do whatever we want in the way of law enforcement, because after all, we have a police force, and we're charged, since we have pieces of property everywhere in the state. We, in fact, have total jurisdictional freedom to go across city lines, across county lines. We're not bound by jurisdictional restraints that you petty people in the state raise up. You should have said Title 38, and we make note of that. And that is, we're talking about Scott Stone, the officer, the TVA cop who you can see what he looks like at Nooganomics.com, arrested a family, did not take the family before a magistrate and jailing and bonding, but let them go when he discerned there was confusion on the tag on the back of the car. And the agency, a federal coal burning agency, has the power to make arrests for public offenses committed against TVA officials or employees, or committed upon, about, or against TVA property. Or it keeps going. The scope of authority keeps widening in this Tennessee law. Or on public roads or right-of-ways passing through or over such property, and while in pursuit of a person fleeing after committing such offense on that property or over that property, may pursue the person and make an arrest anywhere in the state. So if a TVA cop sees some connection between a traveler or a motorist or a driver in a car over a federal piece of property like Chickamauga Dam, he can give chase. Because that offense occurred, the tag offense, right? That tag offense, that tag danger occurred over a piece of federal property. Now, there's a single political party in Tennessee that is concerned about this sort of issue, and we have the new chairman on the phone who says that these powers are dangerous. They are a grant of power by Tennessee to the Tennessee Valley Authority in the statute. Well, Mike Warner, what bothers you about this whole TVA cop doing traffic stops story? What's wrong with it?
Well, for a long time, probably over 100 years, we've been on a slippery slope, giving the federal government authority that it was never intended to have. There's absolutely no constitutional authority for the federal government to come in and police our roads here in the state of Tennessee, whether they're following Tennessee law or otherwise. So everything is left to the states, and the state has decided, I guess, that they should be able to do this. Our position would be, as the Constitution Party, both nationally and in the state of Tennessee, would be that that's an inappropriate thing for the state to do. They may constitutionally be be able to do that, but that doesn't mean it's wise. A lot of things the government does may be technically legal, but not wise. And the more authority you give the federal government within the state, the harder it is to resist the state, or the federal government within the state. The more money we take from the federal government, which is really our money anyway, the harder it is to resist the edicts of the federal government. And we've gotten to a place now where we're really no longer a republic. We never have been a democracy, because a democracy is mob rule. But it's not a democracy either. It's an oligarchy ruled by a few people who decide everything that goes on, and namely I'm talking about the Supreme Court. The Constitution was designed and written to be able to be understood by the common person, so that the common person would know when their rights are being damaged in some way. And if there's a problem with understanding what the words meant when it was written, you can go to the Webster's 1828 dictionary. It's online, free to use, and it will tell you what it meant at the time it was written. Any other law, anything within the law, anywhere else other than to deal with the Constitution, you always look for a meeting of the minds. You look for what the original intent was when a contract was made. And the Constitution is a contract between the states. The federal government did not exist until after the states created it. So the creature, it never has authority over the creator. And yet we've allowed, over the last 100+ years, the federal government to come in and assume or usurp authority that it was never intended to have. We want people to be aware of it. We, the people, are the kings in the United States. If we have never given government authority to do a certain thing, we should be repelling in horror against that kind of thing happening.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Mike Warner, the new chairman of the Tennessee Constitution Party. It is a party that about which you can find out more at cpotn.com, cpotn.com, Constitution Party of Tennessee. Well, Mike, this story is very interesting to me because number one, I was an eyewitness of the traffic stop. I pulled over and made a record of it and published that at Nooganomics.com. I think it's a bit of sensational news because we think people really live in fear of traffic stops. It is an uncertainty on the road, like the patrons of stagecoaches out west would have in their hearts when they got on board the rocking carriage pulled by four or six horses of the bandit. The bandit today is not a private bandit; it is a public bandit. It is a police officer, some kind of sheriff's deputy, and he's viewed with fear and dread. And that's because of the arbitrary nature of these stops. Many of them are presumptively the action of the officer is presumptively against the constitutional right of the traveler not to self-incriminate. And no one is Mirandized. No person who's arrested at a traffic stop gets the Miranda warning at the beginning, which he should be because he's not free to leave. If a person is not free to leave, the officer should, we are to understand, Mirandize that person and say anything you say or do here will be used against you in court. No one's told that. Everyone thinks it's just an administrative issue. And so people, almost 99.95% of the people the police deal with just capitulate all their rights. Every right is given up at the beginning, and that's because of the presumption of commercial jurisdiction that the officer has, and people accept that. So we've been kind of trained, Mike Warner of the Constitution Party, we've been trained to yield our rights in travel because we were presumptively in commerce in the licensing scheme, and the officer demands the license, and so we give it. So your party, how would your party view this story? Would your party say that statute, which has been on the books for decades, that statute's wrong? It seems like a hard statute to try to change now, since it's been around so long, and there's probably not a lot of political support for such a change, Mike Warner.
Well, your listener is the key. Your listener being informed and understanding the dangers and calling the legislators. See, the thing is, the people that legislators in Tennessee hear most from today is paid people from corporations wanting favors. When I started getting interested in politics in Tennessee, I'd go down to the legislature, and there'd be all kinds of people there from all kinds of with different issues and average citizens. If you go down there, if you went down there during this last session, as I have, you'll see that the people there are not the average citizens trying to get their representation taken care of, but it's hirelings who are in there. I'm not sure what they're offering. I'm sure the legislators would claim that they're not offering anything, but because they don't hear from us about these things, they ignore us. And since they tend to get money for their campaigns from these places, it makes it easier for them just to bow to corporate interests and to federal interests, because over 50% of the budget in the state of Tennessee, at least as of last year, was from federal money. So the borrower is servant to the lender, and they have power over us because they take our money as citizens and give it back to us in forms of bribes. Okay, we'll give you this money, but you must do as we tell you to do. If we want to have a free country, if we want to have our God-given rights respected by our local government, we have to make sure that it's not infringed. We, the people, are responsible to do that. And in order for that to happen, we have to know what those rights are.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing, Mike Warner, to talk in general terms about it, but it's another thing to assert a personal right. Your rights are, the listener's rights are personal. They belong to you individually. And what you have to remember is that the moment that you're challenged on something that is a right, you have to say, no, I don't agree, and I'm not yielding, and I'm not speaking. But that is a frightening thing. People are just terrified of confronting an officer or being confronted by an officer or resisting. And usually these are things on sidewalks, in public buildings, and probably most frequently on the side of the street, where the cop is pulling someone over under Title 55, the Commercial Transportation Statute. And that's why, Mrs. Coonrod here in town, the city councilwoman, and the man at the wheel of her car, he's facing a Sessions Court hearing Monday on this question of whether he had a license or not. Well, let me ask you, Mike Warner, about May Beavers. She is the constitutional candidate. She's a Republican. She, by recent reports, has pulled in only about $36,000. Biggest donor is the Tennessee Firearms Association. The other candidates are multimillionaires. Bill Lee has $1.4 million to report. He doubled that amount with his own donation. Businessman Randy Boyd, another one. Lee has 77 times more money than May Beavers, and Randy Boyd at $2.3 million. He has about 63 times the amount of money that May Beavers, the senator, reports. And then Beth Harwell, another establishment figure, is coming in as well. So we have very well polished Republican establishment, big business, state-oriented, progressively oriented Republicans seeking to replace Bill Haslam. How does the party view? Well, let's say the party probably doesn't have a position on May Beavers since she's a Republican. But what is your view about her candidacy for governor?
Well, the first most important thing is to try and help people understand that the mainstream media, major media, is not your friend and has its own agenda. Okay, and it supports the people that give it the most money, and that would be the people you named with the big bank account. Okay, and so you're going to hear a lot more about those people than you're going to hear about May Beavers. But from my perspective, and from most every Constitution Party member I've talked to, everyone in the state executive committee, with maybe one exception, believes that May Beavers is the only candidate that's running currently who is a seriously constitutional candidate who lives by principle and not by the party. Every one of these other ones do not have her track record. She stands up to the party. She stands up for her principles, no matter what the party does to her. She was her committee chairmanship was yanked away from her because she wanted to introduce to the justices in Tennessee some requirements for ethics, and so they stripped her of her chairmanship. That is the kind of thing that's going on and has been going on, not only under Republicans but under Democrats as well. But I think it's even worse under Republicans. We've got, if we want to have our liberties, if we want to have our freedoms, we have to have someone that genuinely looks after the rights of the people under the Constitution. And I understand there's a lot of people out there that don't think the Constitution is relevant, either the state Constitution or the U.S. Constitution, because those who don't want to be held accountable to it downgrade it at every opportunity they have. they don't want to be held accountable to it, and so they say it's an old document, more than 200 years old, written by wigged slaveholders and all of those things. But you see, you have to have a standard. If you do not have a standard, then everybody does whatever the heck they want to, whenever they want to you. And those in power will take advantage of those who have no power. And that is, most of us are poor or middle class people don't have the power because we don't have the money to pay the media to address our issues.
You can call me at 800-8949. That's 800-8949. We're talking with Mike Warner, who is he's a retired entrepreneur in the Clarksville, Tennessee area. He's 63 years old. He runs TennesseeWatchman.com. That's TennesseeWatchman.com. And the readers of that very, not say conservative, free market oriented, constitution oriented website, again, TennesseeWatchman.com, his audience has taken a great interest in the TVA story that we've been exploring here. And we are David Tulis. That's my name. 800-8949. That's 800-8949. We're the only station, the only platform here in Chattanooga that really makes an argument. And by the argument that we have, you might say, Mike Warner, a prejudice for liberty, a prejudice for constitutional government, and a prejudice for God. God is revealed in the scriptures. If we have these presuppositions, we can see things, I think, that other people can't. And I think that's the advantage that you offer as the party chairman. Your party sees things that other people can't see. They just can't see these things because they hear the standard media and so on. And so they're sort of inured to real light on the path, because the other side and the other platforms are saying, well, the path really is different. David Tulis is misrepresenting the path. And just read our editorial page. Just read Pam Sohn and Clint Cooper at the Times Free Press, and they will show you the way to think properly about how things really are. So, Mike Warner, let me ask you just on the question of bringing government back home. That's one of the points of the party. It says that the party pledges to work methodically to restore to the states and to the people their rightful control over legislative, judicial, executive, and regulatory functions. That would be, for example, marriage. Marriage is something that the party has an interest in, right?
Yes, but the truth of the matter is that I don't believe government should be involved in marriage whatsoever.
Meaning what?
It is wrong for government to sell you a right to get married when it is your natural God-given right that marriage was pre-government. Marriage was introduced in the beginning of creation by God, and it is in His jurisdiction. We want to talk about jurisdiction, TVA jurisdiction, local police jurisdiction, sheriff jurisdiction. All of these have specific jurisdictions. If you get to the point where the federal government has all jurisdictions in all places at all times, then what you've done is you've eliminated our status as a republic and reduced us to an oligarchy, because ultimately the way our system currently works is 9 people in black robes decide whether or not they like it or not, and they twist the meaning of the Constitution to suit them.
So, Mike Warner, you're suggesting that marriage, if it belongs to God, really is a common law right. So you would be one of those rare men who would say common law marriage is the way that my listener should go, not for himself since he's already under statute in his marriage, but for his children. He should have his children marry at common law. Common law marriage and the Constitution Party are of one mind, right?
I have. Well, I don't know if the entire party would support it or not, but it's certainly my position. I actually, when this whole marriage, so-called gay marriage thing came up, I honestly considered divorcing my wife in common law marriage.
You mean divorcing her under statute? Hold on. Listen, we're about out of time.
We both talked about it and talked about it favorably.
Right, and the idea,
but it's not it's not the place of government. When this nation was founded, nobody went out and got a marriage license.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Mike Warner, who is the chairman of the Constitution Party. He's saying that that common law marriage is a right, and I'm like him. I'm the Presbyterian deacon in Chattanooga, who favors common law marriage. Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mike Warner is the chairman of the Constitution Party. That's CPOTN. That's CPOTN.com, CPOTN.com, the Constitution Party. Not happy with TVA now enforcing traffic laws across the state. Apparently that's what's happening. If you have evidence of this, please contact me. You report and the world decides. You report and the world decides.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio. AM